this point, I would like to call the official AGM to order. Welcome everyone to the Canadian Worker Co-op Federation's AGM. I'm Reba Flummer, the president of the Federation, and I'm so happy to see you all here. We have an absolutely packed agenda, so there is a strong possibility that we will go over time. I hope that folks are able to stay until the end. The Canadian Worker Co-op Federation gratefully and respectfully acknowledges the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of Indigenous people, whose presence reaches back to time immemorial and on whose territories we live and work. CWCF recognizes that land acknowledgements are not enough. To this end, CWCF has recently approved an action plan to build justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in the worker co-op movement. The action plan was presented this morning in the session Building on Anti-Racism in Worker Co-ops, Practical Tools to Build Real Diversity, Inclusion, and Racial Justice, and the Need for a Culture Shift. You can find the action plan on our website. So to get the conference going, we have a couple of speakers. So our first speaker up is Hugh Bourgeois, who is the Interim Executive Director of Cooperatives and Mutuals Canada. So please go ahead, Hugh.
Yes, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Everyone should see my screen now. Okay. So, chers membres invités de la FCCT, mon nom est Hugues Bourgeois, je suis directeur général par intérim de Coopérative et Mutuelle Canada. Avant de commencer ma mise à jour, je voulais prendre le temps de mentionner que je vous parle d'Ottawa, le territoire non cédé des peuples autochtones algonquins, Anishinaabe. Je suis fier de fournir cet aperçu des activités en cours et à venir pour CMC. CMC est un organisme bilingue et fêtier pour les plus de 5000 coopératives du Canada. En plus de notre travail quotidien, CMC travaille sur un nouveau plan stratégique, un examen complet de notre offre aux membres et de notre structure afin de s'assurer que nous sommes à la fois une organisation centrée sur nos membres et au service de l'ensemble du secteur coopératif. En termes de déployer, nous continuons à nous engager avec les parlementaires et de nombreux fonctionnaires pour faire progresser l'économie coopérative. Nous sommes heureux d'avoir joué un rôle de premier plan pour s'assurer que les entreprises coopératives soient admissibles aux mesures du plan d'intervention économique du Canada COVID-19, que les coopératives agricoles ont reçu une prolongation pour le programme de la part de l'imposition différée jusqu'en 2026 et que le programme CanExport PME soit débloqué. Nous défendons continuellement les priorités du secteur, comme la promotion des entreprises coopératives, un plan fédéral d'investissement coopératif et aussi avoir un traitement fiscal équitable pour les coopératives avec une réserve impartageable qui sont d'une importance particulière pour FCCT. En juin 2021, CMC a terminé un mandat de mobilisation des écosystèmes dans le cadre du projet pilote du programme de préparation à l'investissement. Nous avons été ravis que 59 projets coopératifs aient reçu un financement de 3,46 millions de dollars. CMC s'entend à jouer un rôle similaire dans les prochaines phases du PPI, qui devrait être lancé très prochainement. Nous avons également optimisé nos plateformes technologiques et réalisé un projet ambitieux de collecte et d'intégration de données. Les données alimentent une carte interactive des coopératives à travers le Canada et qui est consultable en ligne avec le but d'encourager l'approvisionnement coopératif ainsi que des champs de recherche liés à la diversité. Je tiens à remercier spécifiquement Hazel pour son intérêt dans ce projet. Sur la scène internationale, CMC continue de représenter les coopératives canadiennes. Deux exemples sont la participation au groupe de travail ACI pour le G20 ainsi qu'à diverses consultations. On a aussi participé au projet Silk organisé par l'Organisation de coopération et de développement économique. CMC poursuit nos efforts avec deux tables nationales créées par la situation de MEC. L'une des tables examine le cadre législatif et identifie des lacunes dans la protection des droits des membres, et l'autre rassemble l'intelligence collective pour générer des actions vers l'excellence de la gouvernance en coopérative au Canada. CMC aussi supporte la recherche qui bénéficie le secteur coopératif. Après avoir dû présenter notre congrès de 2020 et 2021 virtuellement en raison de la pandémie, CMC est fier d'annoncer que nous prévoyons de tenir le prochain congrès en personne à Calgary du 14 au 16 juin 2021-2022. On espère de tout vous voir là. Merci de m'avoir permis de vous parler aujourd'hui et d'être un membre actif de CMC. L'équipe de CMC est impatiente à continuer à travailler avec votre leadership sur diverses initiatives et de veiller à ce que le FCCT soit impliqué dans toutes les conversations qui touchent aux coopératives de travail. Merci.
Thank you, Hugh, for that great greetings from CMC. And now we're just going to move right on to Alexandra. And I just want to remind everybody that please keep your remarks to 5 minutes as we have such a packed agenda. So next up, we have Alexandra Wilson. Alexandra Wilson joined the Cooperators Board in April 2000. She serves as chairperson of the Risk and Compensation Committee and member of the Specials Capital Committee. Her past roles on the board include vice chairperson, and she is also on the boards of CMC, CCIF, and ICA. So please go ahead, Alexandra.
Hi there. It's great to be with you today. I've had the good luck to come to a couple of your conferences and annual meetings in the past, and always found them very rewarding. So thank you for inviting the cooperators today. Now, were you counting on me to display my slides?
Possible,
I don't know
please.
if you sent them to us, they should be
I
able
did.
to.
Can someone display them, if that's okay with you?
Is that you, Evan? I'm not sure who has the slide.
Evan doesn't have them.
I sent them to Kay and Hazel. So, right. Okay, well, you know, I think I'll just carry on.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say just a little bit about the cooperators. For those of you who don't know the organization well, we were created in 1978 through the merger of two major insurance cooperatives, both started in 1945. One was headquartered in Saskatchewan and the other one in Ontario. Today, our membership comprises 46 organizations drawn from among cooperatives in a variety of sectors, credit union centrals, and also associations representing farmers. And that goes back to our founding. We also have one trade union in our membership, United Steel. And we're very proud to have Cwcf as an active member of the organization. So our members are fairly evenly distributed across 7 regions, and CWCF, because you've got members across the country, participate in 5 regions of the cooperators. That means that you send 2 delegates to each of the 5 regions. There are lots of advantages to your membership in the cooperators. You can take part in the governance of the organization by attending delegate and annual meetings, and by nominating candidates for the board. In fact, 2 of our current board members are from CWCF, Jessica and Hazel. The member loyalty payment provides a financial return to members that rewards you for doing business with us and encouraging your members to do the same. We support member conferences and events through our sponsorship program, and we provide funding for nascent and smaller cooperatives and cooperative federations like your own through our cooperative development program, the cooperatives community funds, and special initiatives such as our cooperative impact program, which offered support to cooperatives that were negatively affected by the pandemic. Mutual benefit, of course, is the key to all cooperatives, and we're proud to be a member benefits partner for CWCF. Through that program, we offer exclusive discounts and enhanced coverage for your members. We have a group benefits program that your members can participate in, and we have a commercial program as well. You can read more about the program in the article about collaboration between CWCF and the cooperators that appeared in your AGM package. Now, this part isn't going to work very well without these slides. Sorry about that, but I'm excited to tell you that we are rebranding cooperators. You may have seen our new logo and new presence in social media, in TV ads. Anybody still watch TV? Okay, you can watch them on YouTube and on billboards. Our logo had not changed since 1978 and was looking pretty dated. The new symbol, when you do see it, is a modern interpretation of an oak leaf presented in the shape of an arrow. And the idea there is that the organic nature of the leaf reflects our roots and growth, while the arrow communicates our future forward vision. Just as important as the new visual image is the new message. It's intended to reflect the transformation of our identity. Hey, look at that. Okay, isn't that nice? Okay, see, I couldn't give you that quote before. So the inspiration for the acorn came from this quote, an acorn that will grow into one of the biggest, greatest oak trees of the cooperative movement. And that is something that one of our founders said. So I was saying that the message has also changed. We're trying to put a strong emphasis now on our identity as a source of advice, not just products. And you can see some of the advertising here. So thank you again for having us today. There are several people today from the cooperators, and wish you best of luck in your continuing conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thanks very much to the cooperators, who is a great supporter of CWCF. So, and next we have an international guest, Francesca Zaganelli. Francesca Zaganelli works as a membership coordinator at Cwcf, which she has done since 2015. And Francesca works in 4 languages. So welcome, Francesca, bringing us greetings from Cwcf.
Thank you, Reba. Thank you for the introduction. I think with some of you we have met yesterday. I'm glad today I can give you an idea of what Cwcf does. I'll try to share my screen. Do you see? It's working? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Cwcf, so it's the International Organization of Cooperatives in the Industry and Services sector. It is a sectoral organization of the International Cooperative Alliance since 1947, one of the 8 sectors of the ICA. We have 2 regional organizations, one in Europe and one in the Americas. Just to give you geographical visualization of our network. You can see also in Cicopa Americas, there are two sub-organizations that we cannot read here, but okay, Cicopa North America and Cicopa Mercosur, where I believe Cicopa North America, CWCF have also some active participation. But I will say something more here. We hopefully have soon a third regional organization in Asia Pacific, for which we have an event that I will talk about later. Who are our members? Our members are national federations, but also like that CWCF, but also supportive organizations for cooperatives in the industry and services sector. We have 49 members in 32 countries, which in turn represent 65,000 enterprises employing 4 million workers. We believe, though, that the cooperatives in the services and industry sector is actually much wider than what Cicopa represents, and you can see here that we for what we could assess, our network, outside our network, there are 20 million workers, of which a great part of worker members and also the rest on self-employed producers members. I also didn't say that in our network from 4 million workers, the majority, 85%, is worker members. Indeed, the Cicopa represents several types of cooperatives in the industry and services sector, and the main group of cooperatives that it represents are worker cooperatives. And then as a second group, we can identify social cooperatives. And final group is what we call independent workers or slash producers cooperative. Which is very tiny very tiny group represented in Cicopa, but which we believe is much wider outside our network, and that for sure is gaining a lot of attention from our side in the present and future activities. Maybe I'll skip this, but just to give you a general overview that Cicopa, the service sector is much wider in Cicopa. However, I can tell you that let me give you just an overview here in my notes. That the largest sector where worker cooperatives are present in Cicopa are manufacturing, wholesale and retail trade, reparation and construction. That's just an interesting overview in general. Just briefly, I also would like to share with you what we do. These are our 4 main pillars. Advocacy.
Francesca, it's Hazel. I'm sorry. Could you please could you please make sure you don't shuffle the papers on top of your mic? It's very noisy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
And also you need to wrap it up.
Okay, then, well, in general, we represent our members, and in the cooperative movement internationally, but also inside the movement, but also towards international organizations. And of course, we promote the development of cooperatives worldwide. What I just wanted to conclude with, that also Hazel asked me to share, is that well, there will be soon the 33rd World Cooperative Congress organized by the ICA in Seoul, end of November, beginning of December, where I can drop the link after, and you're welcome to see the program, where the cooperative identity will be discussed through a series of panels and discussions, and it's not a discussion that happens every day. So it's actually, especially at a global level, it's a very unique occasion, and CICOPA will have his event. CWCF will participate in the General Assembly, which is for members only, but for delegates are allowed. So if three more of you are interested, you're welcome to participate, and we will discuss the coming plans for the next 4 years. And we will have, as I said before, a specific event on the launch of the CICOPA Asia Pacific regional network, which is also an historic event, something we have worked on a long time with our Japanese member, GWCU, that we hope will help the development of worker cooperatives in Asia Pacific much more than now. I thank you very much. Sorry if I took some more time. I know you have a long agenda. I wish you a great General Assembly, and thank you again for giving me this few minutes.
Grazie, Francesca. So thank you so much. I'm sorry I had to rush you a bit there. It's all fascinating information. We just, as I said, we're trying to jam so much in today that we're going to run out of time. So thanks to all of our guest speakers. They all play an important part in the co-op world, and we really appreciate that they can send someone here to speak with us and share their information. So now we have a little bit of business right now. First, we need to approve the agenda. So what I'm going to do is you just have to, by putting a screen share up, I can't see people now. So someone is going to have to move. Thank you. So could somebody, I need somebody to move and somebody to second. So if you can just wave or something. Oh, right, quorum. Sorry, verify quorum. Hazel, could you verify quorum?
I can verify that we have quorum, and I will give any other details at a later minute. I had a mild computer crash, but I do know we have quorum and more than far above. Can we come back to that? I apologize. I know we have quorum.
All right.
We were expecting 27 delegates and quorum is 13. So as long as we've got, at least half, we're there.
All right. Thank you, Hazel. So David Doughton has moved the agenda. Could I have a seconder? So David did it in the chat, which is great. Margaret King will second that. Or is there, because we're online here and I like to operate by consensus, if you have any concerns or hesitations, you need to speak up, either unmute and speak up or put something in the chat. So not hearing anything, the agenda is approved. The next item up is approve the 2020 AGM minutes. Could I have a mover, please? And I can only see a portion of you folks. So chat is great for me, or wave at me, but I don't know if I will see you. I don't see anybody. Oh, move from Eric to King moves, and Marty Frost seconds. Thank you. Are there any concerns or hesitations about the minutes from last year's AGM? You do need to speak up or chat if you have anything. Not hearing anything, the minutes from last year's AGM are approved. Next up, we have the business arising from the minutes. Was there any business arising from the minutes of last year's AGM? And again, just unmute and speak up or put something in the chat. Okay. I don't see any. Sorry, we're just trying to zoom along here. So next up, I've got my little speech. It's mostly the same as my report in the annual report. But anyways, CWCF, we've now completed a full year in pandemic conditions. And, we thought last September at the beginning of our fiscal year that life was going to go back to some sort of normal, but it didn't. And really, do we want to go back to what was normal before? We want to change the world. And the pandemic, although it's created challenges, there's also been opportunities. And we see this that, even if we're all zoomed out, we're actually able to get more people. This is the most people we've had at a conference, I think, ever. Or, if everybody shows up, I think our number before was, Hazel will know, but it was 100 or 80, and now we have 100 or something.
160 plus.
That is just fantastic. And I know that the session this morning was just fantastic. It was well attended. It was excellent. And we had people from across the country, and they don't have to leave their home. They can come and leave their work and come for an hour and a half and actually be able to see their friends and people that have shared experiences across the country. So, just to back up a little bit here, we had last year, we invited Dr. Jessica Gordon-Emhart for our keynote speaker, and we had an excellent turnout for that. And we, of course, had to cut her off partway through because it was so exciting and everybody was really interested in that. So we invited Dr. Gordon-Emhart to give another workshop, and we invited more people in. And to that workshop, we went out and looked for people. And out of that, we formed our JEDI committee. And from that, we did create that excellent workshop this morning, but we also created a JEDI action plan, racial justice action plan, which is available on our website. And we have committed funds to this plan, and we've already done a few things. The board has already approved to have a couple of BIPOC advisors, and we found that in the past, when we don't have the diversity on our board, if we can bring in somebody as an advisor, eventually we find that we will get those people onto our boards, and we don't need that advisor role again. We've done that with youth, we've done that with some other portions of skills or demographics that are missing on board. So what else? This year, we saw the launch of the Worker Co-op Academy, which was great. And we, of course, had planned it was going to be in person, and there was going to be a lot of logistics that went on. Where were we going to hold it? We were looking, were we going to do it in Toronto because it's so central, or are we going to do it somewhere else? And well, what do you know? We did it virtually, and 3 groups have gone through the program. We saw presentations yesterday from 2 of them, a massage group in Calgary and a lavender farm out in Summerland, BC. It's just wonderful to see that. And we wouldn't have had those groups if we stuck it in Toronto. It's not possible. So we're getting ready to launch the 2nd season. So please spread the word. And we are, of course, hard working. Our staff's been working great, board of directors, and we are in the final year of our strategic plan. And we're feeling quite positive. We continue to work in solidarity with our members, support the development of new worker co-ops through webinars in the Worker Co-op Academy, strengthen the Federation and the Worker Co-op movement. And I really like this quote, but we're helping to build the solidarity economy, because today, perhaps as never before, more people are becoming aware that capitalism has turned our lives and our planet into a commodity. a system that is environmentally unsustainable and socially unjust, and that is not able to guarantee the happiness and dignified life conditions of all persons in any place on the planet. And that's a quote from Carlos Escunze from the Spanish Network of Solidarity Economy. So in closing, I want to sincerely thank all the staff, the board of the directors, our members, our allies, and everyone who makes CWCF possible. We don't want to go back to the before times. We want to create a world that is equitable, just, inclusive, and values labor above capital. We are worker cooperators. So thank you, everyone. And next up, we've got Hazel to give us her little talk.
Thank you very much, Reba. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen. Hopefully it will go more smoothly than has happened sometimes. There it is. And je voulais dire aussi un petit mot en français. Bienvenue à tout le monde. On est très content de vous avoir avec nous. Bon, pour que je sois à la bonne page. Can everyone see the screen?
Evan can share this for you.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you, Kay. Okay, so as soon as we get that up, I'll get started. And how are we doing for time, Reba?
You have 15 minutes.
Okay, excellent. And if we could go to the first page, please, of the ED report, Evan, that would be perfect. Okay, you could stay on the very first. I was wanting to give some sort of introductory comment first. Back up one, please. Basically, what I wanted to say is that Reba's already covered the fact that this has been a year like no other, obviously, for everyone. That goes without saying. And it's CWCF's first full year through the pandemic, and hopefully last full year through the pandemic. But in terms of that comment that's in the title of this report, a bright future ahead for the solidarity economy and the worker co-op movement, what I mean by that, and some of you heard this in the keynote yesterday, but I really sense that in the worker co-op movement in Canada outside Quebec especially, which is where we mostly hang out, there's a kind of a great turning happening right now, because there seems to be, in part, it's that far more people are looking for the worker co-op model, as you know, the kind of COVID effects on employment have both created a lot of inequality and a lot of poverty and marginalization at the bottom of the economic system. It's also given people more time to think about things and look for alternatives and need an alternative. So, you know, there's this factor of more people looking, and that's especially true of younger people, racialized people, women, generally equity-seeking groups, but it's true all over the map. Like, it was interesting to hear yesterday from Esteban Kelly, my counterpart in the US, to say that in the US, they're finding, in fact, they're getting, you know, the percentages of how previously their percentages of racialized people and women in co-ops were like the vast majority. And now it's getting, there's more white men looking for worker co-ops too. Like, everybody is looking for worker co-ops, it would seem, in the US. In any event, it's a very diverse group, and that need is there. And also at the same time, I think there is a bit more capacity in the movement to, I'm speaking mostly of Canada outside Quebec, and I do just want to preface that by saying, for those who don't know, that 2/3 of the worker co-op sector in Canada is in Quebec, which has mostly to do with their preferable supports that are in place. There's capital that's much more readily available, and technical support, and they've got 3 federations just within Quebec: the Forestry Co-op Federation, the Paramedic Co-op Federation, and Le Réseau Co-op, who is our closest partner in Quebec, I would say. Welcome to those folks from those federations who are here with us today. But the bulk of CWCF's work is outside Quebec, and we figure the Quebec federations are covering Quebec, basically, other than sometimes there's a direct service needed. But putting that aside, looking at, you know, what they call the ROC, the rest of Canada, we see that there's more capacity to give supports through our various programs. And so I sense that between the need and the capacity and just a variety of, you know, nonprofits and governments and others looking for creative solutions, I sense that we're in this kind of a takeoff position. So next slide, please. In terms of what the year looked like, we did a lot of focus on government relations. We hired for part of the year Pierre Cyr, the same prime consultant that is used by Co-ops and Mutuals Canada, and we lobbied quite hard in terms of seeking a program for conversions to worker co-ops and to shore up our Tenacity Works Fund, which is just way too small for the demand or the need, and a whole variety of tax measures. Most recently, we have been engaged with Social Capital Partners, which is a significant nonprofit organization based in Toronto, which does lobbying and other work around capitalization, mostly not in the co-op world, but in any event, they have a proposal for the federal government to make employee ownership trusts part of federal legislation and to give them favorable tax incentives and potentially other incentives. And I'm spending a lot of time on this small point just because they have great momentum. They've got the ear of the Liberal government. I think they're very well connected politically, like far better than we are with the federal Liberals. And they even got their ask into the Conservative Party's platform. And the good news for the worker co-op movement is that, you know, we wrote a briefing note jointly with CMC, and we had a great meeting about a month ago with Social Capital Partners in which they agreed that there shouldn't be discrimination based on type of employee-owned enterprise, that whatever is going to employee ownership trusts and related should go to worker co-ops and related. So we're guardedly optimistic that, actually I'm quite optimistic that that will work, because I feel that that's the easiest kind of lobby to engage in, where you're just basically making the point to government, if you're doing one thing in one place, it's only fair to do it with everything comparable, including co-ops. And it's great to have CMC's support on that as well. And other players, including Marcelo Vieta and the Co-op Convert team at U of T. In terms of what we did around member support, you know, we have our technical assistance grants, and many co-ops access those. The grants of up to $3,500 for whatever the need is in the co-op. We very much have our current strategic plan, which is 1 year left, focused around in-person meetings and regional events and getting together. And of course, what was it, 19 months ago, all that got thrown out the window. So we've had to revert to Zoom meetings and phone calls, and it's nowhere near as enjoyable or as engaging, but we're happy to say that we did have in-depth meetings with about half of our members, and those are continuing. That's like in the last year. Anyway, we're hoping that we may be able to do some regional events that are actually in person, although our weather in the country here doesn't really help to do that at this point in the year, but certainly by spring, that's the hope. Our AGM last year, Reba mentioned it, we had our guest speaker, special guest speaker, Dr. Jessica Gordon-Imhard, which was excellent. And we didn't do a full conference, and this year, of course, we are doing a full conference, and we've gotten lots of good lessons that next year we hope to apply in terms of doing it hybrid with partially Vancouver and partially online. And the board, we welcomed 2 new board members last November, being Jared Bluestein from the Allium Vegetarian Restaurant in Calgary, and Sandra Allen from Shift Delivery Co-op in Vancouver. She actually joined partway through the year after having been a board advisor, and Jessica Valentine was there before that, as the Jessica Valentine from the Woodshop Co-op, I should say, was a prior BC director. And we held 100% of our meetings online, as many of your organizations would have. In terms of new members, we were pleased to welcome 8 new members last year, new member worker co-ops. That's not counting new member developers or new member associates, of which there were also some. And there's been one we welcomed since the year ended, which is the Black Professional Women's Co-op. And then we've run our arts and cultural program, which we can also call the Mark Goldblatt grants, because the program was launched as a result of a bequest from our past president, Mark Goldblatt. And the visual that you've seen for the conference came from a prior year winner, which is the St. John's Social Justice Cooperative. I believe I have their name right, in Newfoundland. And we appreciate that they've enabled us to make use of that to promote the conference. Next slide, please. So we continue to run our RRSP TSFA program, and I'm not sure if we still have any folks joining us from outside the country, but the acronyms are bad enough for Canadians. Registered Retirement Savings Program and tax-free savings account. I realize it should be TFSA. Sorry. And we're deciding that we're going to be marketing that program more significantly. And I should mention that this program is not only offered to worker co-ops, larger worker co-ops that qualify to use it, who need at least 10, preferably 11 or more members, and other kinds of co-ops who qualify under the rules, but also to community economic development investment funds, which are mostly in Nova Scotia, but growing as well in other maritime provinces and in BC and Alberta with different names in many cases. Because since the pandemic started, we've seen the program kind of stagnate and not grow. It was growing dramatically for many years, mostly with CDFs, but other co-ops, renewable energy co-ops, and so on. It's really like a service to the community economic development and broader co-op sector in some ways, but it hasn't been growing in the same way lately. So we're deciding we're going to market it, and so we've decided to rename the program. Instead of just calling it the CWCF RSP program, it's now going to be called Common Good Capital. And we haven't kind of locked that into stone and trademarked it yet, but we plan to. If anybody has comments on that, we had lots of fun trying to come up with what the name might be for the program, everything from, Solidarity Capital to Commonwealth Capital to, you name it, community, etc. But we really like common good and kind of what the meaning stands for, and we think it makes very good sense. And the other piece about the program is we continue to have in our lobby asks that we want to see the government make the program available to worker co-ops more generally again, but it's quite challenging with our relatively low resources to get government's attention on changing the Income Tax Act for something, I don't know, that they seem to view as not priority. We keep hearing they're going to do a major review of the Income Tax Act. And if that does get launched, then I'm sure that this will be one of the several taxation asks we would have, so that generally worker co-ops could use it. And currently there's about 70 million still in that program under administration. And you've heard that number for a while because it, as I said, it hasn't really grown since the pandemic. So next slide, please. So as Reba mentioned, we launched the Worker Co-op Academy this past year, and we really greatly appreciate the collaboration of Le Réseau Co-op because it's very much based on their Parcours Co-op, the program they've been running for training for quite a few years with great success. And we're pleased that we've got the first 3 co-ops coming out of the group, coming out of the program shortly. And those of you who were here yesterday may have seen the Lavender Co-op and the Massage Co-op, and then we also have a consulting group in Toronto that's also very strong, but they couldn't fit in preparing an Ignite presentation to us. Anyway, watch for more from all of them later. And we're going to be running the next cohort, we plan, in the early spring. So if you know of any folks who would like to be engaged in a 5-month startup, it's basically meant to accompany folks to start their worker co-op with every aspect they need and with a developer assigned. And we hope to be able to continue assigning mentee developers because we view it as a way to help to train and mentor the upcoming worker co-op developers in the country. Okay, next slide, please. So in our strategic plan, there's the 3 primary priorities, right? Engage in strengthening our current members, building awareness and scaling up worker co-ops, and building the solidarity economy. Then I wanted to mention that in the annual report, given my 2 minutes remaining, you can read a lot of details about all the things that we've done within each of those areas. I feel that the piece around the solidarity economy has been the part that's been hardest to define for us in a way. Like we're really clear in our minds, especially after we heard from Dr. Sonia Novkovic and Tata Magush 2 years ago, you know, what is meant by the solidarity economy and why do we see worker co-ops as a central part of it? It's basically the view that economy is for people and not for profit. And how do we do that democratically? Well, we do that democratically through cooperatives. And right now, with the needs for employment and not gig work and, you know, not precarious work, but quality employment where people have power and control, like worker co-ops. It should be a central part of the solidarity economy. We all know there's a lot of talk about social enterprise and social economy and things that are not transformative in that same way. And governments seem to really gravitate toward the social economy and things that aren't particularly transformative. Certainly more conservative and liberal governments tend to gravitate there quite easily. But we feel we really fit in the social economy and the solidarity economy, or some call it the social and solidarity economy, which is also a great phrase. So anyway, our challenge is to figure out how to get this message out. Like, what's the point of what we're doing? It's to build a solidarity economy, in part through worker co-ops, in part through closely partnered other allies and groups. There's some really interesting work going on, especially you can look at this, I'll put it in the chat when I'm done, but there's an initiative on creating solidarity economy principles that's largely driven by worker cooperators around North America, especially the US. There's a solidarity economy incubation zone group, largely based in Montreal with Drew Ohadje. Anyway, we're looking at various options, but that's the piece we have to focus on in our last year, I would say. And go to the next slide, and I think that might be it, I hope. Anyway, this really just gets into details that are all outlined in the strategic plan about what we did under that pillar. And go to the next slide. Similar. Building awareness and of the worker co-op model and scaling them up in different ways, both building up the ones that exist, strengthening, and also helping to develop the movement, including through conversions, of course. And I mentioned how we engage in lobbying. Next slide. Build a solidarity economy. And I would just mention that it's very important. I think the focus on racial justice that we've really embarked on, and when we launched that diversity committee, which has become the JEDI committee, which is like a wonderful name. Thank you, Imran, for coming up with it. You know, the committee was really clear that yes, we have to be thinking about diversity of every kind, and we already do, but racial justice is really the hardest nut to crack. And like, can we not focus on that? So we did, and it's been very heartening and wonderful. And the workshop this morning was very moving and great on that topic. And so will be the one this evening, I would say, by Freedom Dreams. And then collaborations with solidarity economy organizations, and I've mentioned that already. So I think that's it for my slides. If not, it's it for my time. I do want to, like Reba did, to express my gratitude to the other folks, especially in the staff, and maybe at the end of the meeting we can have them all wave or something like that, because most all of them are here. I did want to let folks know there's going to be a Q&A period at the very end, so although you can't have one right now, we could do one later. And we're greatly looking forward to the year we've just embarked on. We're starting because we're really optimistic that this great turning is happening. I said it yesterday, but we saw this with the U.S. Federation, that, you know, they've been growing dramatically, the worker co-op movement there, and it's been very exciting to watch. And I have to confess, I've been a little bit jealous of what they've been doing there, but you know, I feel those changes happening here now, and it's wonderful. So thank you all for being part of it, and back to you, Reba.
Well, thank you, Hazel. That was great. What a great overview of what's been going on in CWCF over the past year. Next, we have some more of the regular business. So I'm going to turn it over to Hazel and Evan, our treasurer, to do the financial report presentation. So take it away, Evan.
Sorry about that, trying to unmute. I'm going to share my screen here with the financial report. So we've got our comparison to last year. You can see total revenues were down slightly. That was partly due to not having a conference, and the RRSP fees and interest rates had dropped significantly. So those are contributing factors. Total expenses are also down, again, because of decreased travel, not having the conference, and no member outreach budget was used up for the year. So that accounts for the total decrease in expenses. That loss, a slight loss, operational income of $6,992, but then that is offset by the loan write-down from a loss from the CCIF investment, and that is due to the high cost of management in that fund. I should point out that the CCIF loss is actually closer or over $16,000, but we had an offset from another loan that was recuperated for a total write-down of $14,885, and that figure is consolidated. Those losses are spread out over several years, but the decision was made to state those on our current year. So that is the reason for that, which leads us to our net income, or in this case, loss of $7,863. Hazel, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't. I think you did a great job. But we have time for questions too, right?
Yes, does anybody have questions on the statements? I don't see any hands coming up. At this time, I would like to get a motion then that we approve the financial report.
Are you going to use the next statement as well, Evan?
Oh, I could.
Good point. Thank you, Kay, for paying attention.
Thanks for catching that, Kay. Gotta go back to my notes. Assets for the current term, slightly down, and the long-term assets in the RRSP program are up, partly due to dividend payouts that were made and are currently sitting in accounts. So this is a reminder to people who have cash sitting in the RRSP program that that cash should be moved to interest-bearing accounts. And it's only people with balances above $2,000 that are notified. So I think the story is that there are a number of accounts that have less than that, several $100s that are sitting in cash, but quite a few of them. So members with cash and RRSP accounts should be aware of that. The long-term debt, the $30,000, is from the CEBA loan that CWCF took out, and that money is going to be repaid before the deadline, which gives us the $10,000 credit. And we also have the $25,000 bequest from the Mark Goldblatt Fund. Member equity in the Tenacity Works Fund is slightly down, and the general reserve has increased for total liabilities and member equity of $6,605,706. Now, does anybody have any questions?
This is Marty Frost. I have a question.
Hi, Marty, go ahead.
Hi, Evan. I'm wondering, on our income statement, there was a write-down of $14,000 in one of our investments. Can you tell me where that investment is reflected on our balance sheet?
That is the CCIF loan.
Yes,
I'm just pulling up trying to find the balance sheet on my notes here.
I think it's the last slide has it.
Sorry, maybe Hazel would be better, or Kay could answer the question for you.
Well, I apologize that I can't remember the exact number of the investment. So basically the high level summary is that CWCF has invested, or committed rather, 250,000 of our fund into the Canadian Co-op Investment Fund, which, as folks mostly would know, is the all co-op sector fund, which was originally called the Canadian Co-op Development Fund and has been running for the last 4 or 5 years. And as of the end of the financial year, I think it's about $50,000 that we had invested in it by memory. And the cumulative loss to that date was 16,600 and change. And then there was a recovery noted in a different investment that made the net loss to be 14,000. So basically there was a loss of about a third of what we put into CCIF. And the reason is basically the operating costs of it, which are very high. Okay, and Jocelyn Dumaresque, I apologize. We forgot to note that our auditor is on the call. And thank you, Jocelyn. We should have introduced you. We didn't, but in any case, I appreciate the fact you're noting the investments are listed in note 6 of the financial statements as well. And I did have that document open, and other folks should, I hope, have it at hand.
It's also on page 4 of the financial statements, the statement of revenues and expenditures under income or loss from operations.
Okay,
Right.
thanks. Yeah, so in note 6, it says the CCIF limited partnership accounted for using the equity method is 32,000 something. And then the rest, the other, whatever it is, 17 or 18,000 is in a loan.
Right. Yeah.
Part of it's in equity and part of it is in debt. I'm sorry, that's getting a little detailed, but that's the general summary.
So I guess what I'm taking from that is that the write down on the income statement is reflected perhaps in the reduction in the value of the tenacity fund from 2020 to 21.
That's right. That's
okay.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I would
Are there
just
any other
add
questions?
quickly to that point, Marty, sorry, that we're quite concerned about that and giving it attention, because it's a big concern for the board that the fund is not maintaining, right? So we're doing what we can.
Okay.
Any other questions about the financial statements? Seeing none, can I get a motion from the floor to approve? See, Kelly is moving. Can I have a seconder? Sandra seconds. And now is your chance to speak up if anybody has any issues. The motion is carried.
So do you want to go to the next one then, right away?
Sure, and then we'll have a presentation from the auditor after, I'm assuming? Or is
It's up
this?
to Reba.
No, it's not in the agenda. The next up is the recommendation for to appoint the auditor. So if we just
Right, so
carry on.
The board has recommended that we continue with Bishop and Co as auditor for the CWCF. So again, I would call for a motion from the floor to appoint Bishop and Co as the auditor again. See Matt from Fourth Big is moved. Can I get a seconder? Looks like Eric Toots King is seconded. Now's your chance to speak up if anyone has any issues. Hearing none, the motion is carried.
All right, well, thank you for that. And our next item up is the budget and the 2020-2021 budget, and Hazel is going to present the budget.
Okay, Evan, could you share your screen again, please? So I just really want to focus on the highlights of what's different. As you can see, we've got the budget into 3 columns as always. First column is the Federation's budget without the fund, the Tenacity Works Fund. The second column is the fund, and that's kind of for historic reasons, but we'd like to keep it that way. And the fund is kind of separately maintained in the books, except at year end. And then there's the total budget, which is the most significant one, of course, and what we sort of focus on. But basically, as you can see, you know, at a high level, the RSP fees are sort of comparable to what they were in the past year. Most years we would have seen like 10 to 20% growth, but we're not projecting that. Then there's a lot of interest from various different sources in our budget, and we're actually quite lucky that we have those amounts. And partially it has to do with some shout out to the housing co-op movement, like wherever we have monies held on deposit, whether our fund or our retained earnings or other, like we're able to collect quite high interest, especially in today's environment. I think it's 2.4% that we're getting. And we're also just moving into a high interest savings account at the Valley Credit Union for our RSP monies that are sitting there. Anyways, the cooperator's loyalty payment is also a significant part of our budget. And the other piece that's significant, and well, it's important, I guess, to us is to pay close attention to what we're collecting in dues. And our dues have, it's interesting that we both implemented this approach of, for the worker co-op dues at least, that it's a sort of a barrier-free policy without calling it that, but we have what we call solidarity dues that we instituted with the start of the pandemic, where if your co-op just can't meet the regular dues, which vary from $50 to $3,000 a year, you can just tell us that and pay us $10 instead. And after we instituted that, the amount we collect in dues went dramatically up. So, I mean, that's a sign in part that the co-ops are doing pretty well. And also a sign that, you know, people aren't abusing the solidarity dues. They're only using it if needed. And, you know, in part, we see our membership growing with the result with that in place. So that's really important. There've been some years where our total dues were only like $18,000 or $2,000. And some of those dues are also associate dues and region federation dues. Developers are members in our organization without having to pay direct dues. They just pay dues to Co-op Zone, and then they can automatically be members of CWCF, which is a thing that we're realizing we have to get clearer out there, known in the world, among the membership. Anyway, and then the fund specific activities are basically like the SASHA interest is through the CHIP program of the Housing Federation. There's a very small amount of CCIF interest, and then loan investment interest, which is a little bit of a guess. And a thing I did not mention in my report that I'm going to sneak in now is that we've changed the fund, our Tenacity Works Fund, so that it's now a sliding scale of interest of 4 to 8%. And we have guidelines in place. And so any co-ops applying can now apply with the notion that hopefully, especially if they're not a startup, they could be at the lower end. We'll see, depending on the guidelines. In terms of the expenses, you know, it's pretty much on par to the current year. I don't want to go into anything in detail because we haven't really changed a huge amount from prior years. And Evan, I guess you could scroll to the next page and people will see to the end. This is awfully small text, isn't it? I hope people are following along in a different kind of a document. What would I want to flag here? maybe I should just point out that what we're doing gets us to the bottom line of an operating surplus overall, including the Federation and the fund, that first operating bottom line of 14,366, but that we are using some of that, we're using that plus some of our reserves for, is it a planned way to do co-op development work? So for example, the racial justice grants and the bursaries for co-op studies, and then the technical assistance grants, which are open to anybody, any kind of worker co-op, BIPOC or not, totaling 43,500, so that in the net, we'd look at a deficit of 29,000 roughly. And in many years, and those of you who have come to our meetings for a while would know this, we often project a deficit like this, and then we can sometimes find creative ways to do better, and don't come back with as big a deficit. But in any case, that's what we're planning for. And because we have so much in our retained earnings, I think it's $310,000 at this point, not counting our fund, we really feel comfortable in taking that kind of amount out of the accumulated reserves. And a lot of that is because of the loyalty payment, we have to say, from cooperators. So we probably would not be looking at that kind of retained earnings if not for that. So we really greatly appreciate that kind of profit sharing we're able to share in. Thank you. So any questions on the budget? Oh, I'm sorry, Reba, I'm not watching the chat. Okay, I apologize. Over to you.
Thanks, Hazel. I didn't really think you were, but we were doing fine. Too many things to watch while you're presenting, but that's great. And I really appreciate how we've adjusted the way the budget shows, so we show that we're not running a deficit budget, but that we are using our reserves. And we did go back and look at our reserves. What is our operating reserve, and what else do we have that we would be able to invest into our community? So thank you, Hazel, for presenting that. And next up, we have Jessica, who is in charge of the resolutions. So I'm not sure if we got any resolutions, but Jessica.
Oui, merci. Je vais faire cette petite partie en français. Donc, effectivement, je m'appelle Jessica, je suis sur le conseil d'administration de la Fédération canadienne des coopératives de travail depuis plusieurs années et je fais partie du comité des résolutions avec Frank. Il y a eu un premier appel pour des résolutions cet été, un deuxième appel pour ce qu'on nomme les résolutions tardives, qui a été fait aussi au courant de l'automne et dont la date limite informelle était hier soir, le 16 novembre. Après ces deux appels de résolution auprès des membres, aucune résolution n'a été reçue par la Fédération, mais si un ou une déléguée voulait aujourd'hui proposer une prise de position, une résolution, donc une résolution tardive qu'il voudrait soumettre aujourd'hui, c'est possible, il serait possible de l'examiner. Donc, mon appel vous concerne. Est-ce qu'il y a un ou une déléguée qui voudrait soumettre une proposition à ce moment-ci? Une résolution, pardon, à ce moment-ci. Je ne vois pas tout le monde. Je vais essayer de voir tout le monde. Est-ce que vous pouvez ouvrir votre micro? Je vais faire un premier appel à résolution. Je vais le faire juste 2 fois. Est-ce que quelqu'un, pour la deuxième fois, est-ce que quelqu'un voudrait soumettre une résolution? Sinon, on vous invite au courant de l'année à faire appel à notre comité et à nous proposer des résolutions avant la prochaine Assemblée générale ou au cours de l'année. Merci.
Thank you, Jessica. And so next up, we are doing the election or acclamation of directors, and Evan will lead us through that.
Again. So we have several nominations for various positions this year. Kelly Story has been nominated for the at-large position on the board. Sandra Allen has been nominated for the BC position. Reba Plummer has been nominated for the Ontario position. And Jessica Provencher has been nominated for the Quebec position. At this time, I'd like to call upon the floor for any further nominations. Again, I will call upon the floor for further nominations. And one last time, call to the floor for nominations to the board. So seeing we have none, all of our nominees win by acclamation.
Yeah, you'll need to ask for a motion.
Yeah, so I will now call for a motion to acclaim the nominees. I see David moves to acclaim and Dawn seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Congratulations to those nominees.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for your support. We have now, just as you noticed, it was all women. We're good. We're just gonna take over. So anyways, not really. We want gender balance on the board. So up next, I wanted to put out there that we are seeking volunteers. So the 2021-2022 nominating committee, the strategic plan implementation committee, the government relations committee, and I would also add in here that we would love people to join the JEDI committee as well, or suggest items for the JEDI committee to do. So next item. So hopefully next year we're actually going to have an in-person AGM and conference. So we've been trying to look at all that excitement. We have been holding Vancouver now for 2 years. So the plan is to have it in Vancouver, November 17 to 19, 2022. So was there anything you wanted to add to that, Hazel, or have we got it all in there? Yeah.
I don't think so. Those of you who were at another Vancouver meeting will recognize the location. It's the YWCA Hotel, which has been greatly renovated. Looking forward to welcoming you there. We're sure, we're pretty sure.
We hope that we're sure. So I'd love to see you all. I'd love to be out to BC. I did spend a few years there when I was a child. We lived out in Vancouver, so it's a little bit of going home. Sometimes I go and look at the old house when I'm there. Hey, but now we've got to the most exciting part of the day. We are now going to go to do the awards. So we have 2 awards this year that we're giving out. The first one is for I've got to change up here for my notes. The first one is the Worker Co-op Best Practices Award. And I get to talk about the nominee because I actually nominated them. And we have nominated London Brewing Co-op for the Worker Co-op Best Practice Award. And this is because we just see that they are doing a lot of things that we can really get behind. They have, I saw this, they came up, not only, I already like them, I can buy beer online from them, which is great because they didn't have to go out. We were able to have it sent right here, Worker Co-op organic beer. And one of my favorite beers that they have is called Local 117, and it is a local organic beer. All the products come from within 117 kilometers of the brewery. But that is all great, but I was doing something else. I got a sausage and beer subscription, and once a month I'd get for beer and for sausages come. And then in their newsletter, I see they've partnered with London Brewing Co-op, and they're saying London Brewing is one of 2 certified organic craft brewers in Ontario. So just these are all things that just tick all those boxes. I don't go out and shop for things because of, I don't know, like their label or something. I shop because they're local, they're organic, they're fair trade. They're made by a worker co-op. That's so fantastic. So I can't really say so much. You know, we've got someone here from London Brewing, and I thought that they really are the best people to speak about what they've been doing over the past couple of years that has really moved them forward. And I believe that Aaron is going to speak today for them and just give us a little bit more information more than I can give, that's for sure. But please, Aaron, would you?
All right. Thanks for the introduction, Reba, and thanks very much to the CWCF for the recognition. We're very grateful to receive it. It's been kind of heads down, keep moving for the past 22 months since the bottom dropped out of what was our primary business, and it got picked up by folks like Reba and others who supported the home delivery program that got us through until bars and restaurants started to open back up, and we were able to do some activities in the tap room. The tap room is sort of our retail space. It's also kind of the lifeblood of what we do. It's where we connect with community groups. We've got an event going on this evening with Bird Friendly London. We did a beer for them that's raising funds for the little black dots that they're going to put on the windows around the city. It's just sort of fun stuff like that, and we really miss that for the last while. Sort of that community connection piece. We started out of the back of the Root Cellar Organic cafe and restaurant on a little 120 liter system as a worker-owned cooperative. It was far too small to be a business, but it was big enough to start producing some beer and getting it into people's hands, either on tap at the restaurant or at the once a month pop-up shops that we did. And it's grown since then. All throughout, we've been producing the local 117, which is very near and dear to our hearts. It's actually made it into the LCBO system for the first time this spring as part of a 4-pack sampler. So we were able to carry that message out there, because beer is primarily, it's an agricultural product. It grows on farms, and if those farms were local, what kind of difference would it make to our local communities, to our local economy, to our environment? We just crunched the numbers the other day on sort of our annual consumption of grain. It takes about a half acre of grain to make a batch of beer. So it's substantial. And by sourcing as much local as we do, we were actually able to reduce our overall CO2 emissions by 16%. When you're looking at climate change, that's significant. Where we choose to buy our ingredients from, and the kinds of agricultural practices that we choose to support sort of have ripple effects that go out beyond just having a good job for ourselves. It's about creating a viable long-term community as well. I could go on, but I know we're short for time. Just want to once again express appreciation for the recognition, and thanks for the support in the home delivery front as well. That kept us going.
Well, thank you, Aaron. That's great to hear from you. And I know when I was speaking with you folks earlier that you've actually also gotten into some non-alcoholic drinks, the 4C Botanicals line of tonics, and that's really great to hear that you also have something that is good for the people who don't want to have an alcoholic drink, and maybe not kombucha.
For sure. Yeah, that's just we were able to, the pandemic pivot was purchase a canning line used from Flying Monkeys Craft Brewery and figure out how that works, which puts some margin back into the bottom line and also gives us more flexibility over production. And with that flexibility comes opportunity for experimentation, like the Forest City Botanicals, which is a partnership with our sister business On the Move Organics that operates out of the same facility, and is a local organic grocery and produce home delivery company. So sort of working together to keep moving forward.
Well, congratulations, Aaron, and congratulations to London Brewing. And I really look forward to coming up and visiting with you folks. It's in the plans for us to come and visit with the members, and I've really been trying to make an opportunity to get up there and visit with you and some of the other co-ops up in that neighborhood. And I see that Hazel's waving at me. You got something, Hazel?
Yeah, we were just taking turns not reading each other's chats, because I wanted to find out if Aaron, if your co-op has received the award yet in the mail.
I haven't seen it.
I'm going to try to find the photo of it. It's from the Yellowknife Glass Recyclers Co-op.
Oh, cool.
And it's pretty cool. It's a recycled piece, right? So
that fits.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, so we did have it shipped to you, but who knows, the shipping's a little bit slow these days. So anyways, but congratulations again to London Brewing for the Worker Co-op Best Practices Award. And now I'm going to turn the mic over to Frank. Frank is going to present the, not even sure, what's the award called?
The Mark Goldblatt Award.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, folks. The Mark Goldblatt Award.
Yes, so for a bit of background, so those who have not had the pleasure to have met the late Mark Goldblatt, whom the award is named after, Mark was an iconic figure in the Canadian cooperative movement, and in particular, the worker co-op movement. He was CWCF's board president for 14 years, and in those days, the resources were quite low, but he worked as if he was a paid staff member. You might want to check out there's a fairly moving tribute to him on the CWCF website from